Some of this stuff you don't really get to hear because it's not discussed, but I try my best to elaborate as much as we can. So Imam Ghazali rahmatullahi alayhi begins. He says that he praises Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and he thanks Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says that we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in that He has taught us the way of shaitan, that the way of shaitan is through your hearts and through your lust. Right? I'm going to bring all of this together later on inshallah. But the way shaitan reaches you is through your heart. Why? How do we know that? Because we also read in the Quran. The very last surah. قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ النَّاسِ مَلِكِ النَّاسِ إِلَهِ النَّاسِ مِنْ شَرِّ الْوَسْوَاسِ الْخَنَّاسِ الَّذِي يُوَسْوِسُ فِي صُدُورِ النَّاسِ. So he reaches your heart, right? And he inspires you, or he tries to inspire you to do evil, to follow your desires, the lust. And he's made it known unto us, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's also told us that this is what he's going to do to you. But at the same time, Allah has told us how we can subdue him, how we can protect ourselves from the shaitan and control our lusts to gain superiority over our lusts. So this is what Ghazali rahmatullahi alayhi has to say. Imam Shah Wali al-Dehlawi has a similar discussion. He says, look, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us of two parts, broadly speaking. We have what's called angelic disposition. Angelic disposition in Arabic is malakiyah. So we are able to rise not only as far as the angels, but even surpass the angels. That's magnificent in of itself. We have the ability, if we exert ourselves, if we try to surpass the malaika. Right? And I've talked about this. One reason for this is that we have to strive against our desires. Right? We have to wake up at Fajr. And it's hard in summer to wake up at 4 o'clock or half 3 in the morning to wake up at Fajr, especially if you prayed Isha at 10 o'clock or 10:15 and you've gone to bed at 12 o'clock and you've been working all day. It's a mujahada, right? Or to control your gaze, or to control your desires. The angels don't need to worry about that. They do it automatically. They worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala automatically. They program just to do that. Just like a MacBook is programmed to work in a certain way, unless you get a bug or some sort of bug or so forth, then it's different, right? But that's how it's meant to be. And so we are created one part of this angelic disposition, and we can surpass the malaika. But also he says that we are also made of a bahimiyat, which is like an animalistic disposition. So when we follow our desires, we become like animals or even worse than them. Right? So we have these two things of which are constantly fighting with one another. And you feel it sometimes, don't you? When you wake up in the morning, oh, should I go to sleep? Should I wake up? Should I eat too much? Should I eat too less? Should I keep my head down and keep, don't look at haram? All of these things. There's always this sort of battle going on in ourselves, right? And everybody has it in different or varying degrees. So the purpose of fasting is then to bring this desire, this animalistic side, under control. I notice I've said not to destroy it. I've not said we're going to destroy the animal side. We want to bring it under control. Just like you have a wild horse, you don't want to destroy the wild horse. You want to get it under control so you can ride the horse and get to your place. So the same thing. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us sexual desires, has given us the desires to eat, has given us the desire to drink. All of these things are necessary because we need to fulfill, we need to survive basically. We need to create and continue the human race. So these things are needed. So the point isn't to destroy these things. That's not the point. The point is to gain mastery and control over them. And when a person is able to do that, what does he get? Happiness. The Greeks talk about felicity, sa'ada. Right? What's the ultimate thing a person wants in life? Not money. What's the ultimate thing a person, not cars, they want happiness. Right? That's what felicity. That's what everything goes towards. Society goes towards what? Happiness. People want stability. People want to walk to the musalla, right, for salah without worrying about getting shot or mugged or getting bombed like in other parts of the world. Right? We want the happiness. We want to wake up in the morning feeling happy. We want to go home in the evening to our homes feeling happy. So this is what everybody is searching for. This is like the golden prize that everybody wants. So by doing this, we have control of ourselves and we have some semblance of happiness. Okay? And so the Quran also mentions this, that the purpose of all the prophets was what? To have control over the animalistic side. The very famous Quran verse that's always recited in the month of Ramadan. Allah says, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمُ الصِّيَامُ كَمَا كُتِبَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. All you who believe, fasting has become prescribed. Use the word prescribed is interesting as well. I mean, I'm translating it into English. It's not always accurate, but it's been prescribed for you like a medicine. كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمُ الصِّيَامُ كَمَا كُتِبَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ. It's not just for you. People came before you. They were also told to do the same thing. مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. That's the answer. Because you become righteous. By gaining mastery over the desires, you gain mastery of becoming a pious person. So people before us, the Anbiya before us, were told to do the same thing, to bring human beings back to their humanity, essentially. Right? And people are thinking, well, we are human beings, but do we behave like human beings? Is there anything that differentiates us from animals in the way we behave? Right? And we can look at that and gauge for ourselves. So the hikmah or the wisdom is found in this verse, namely to become righteous. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through this mechanism of fasting is allowing us or giving us opportunity to become righteous people. To become people of لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. That if you avail of the month of Ramadan, then you become a righteous person. People will say, why do I need to become a righteous person? Well, I've just said that before, that you want to become happy. Righteousness equals happiness. Right? And Islam has this is what Islam is teaching us. Imam Waliullah or Wali Dehli Divine mentions two things as well. How does this wisdom take place in the dunya? He says that to do this, we need to weaken the animalistic inputs. This desire that we have to eat so much and to engage in haram activities and so forth. And so when it becomes weak, it gives an opportunity for us to focus on other things. Because we're weakening our desires. Right? If you can weaken your enemy, if you can, as an army general, if you can weaken your enemy somehow, the job is easy for you. Right? So rather than attacking, why don't you weaken your enemy without even attacking them beforehand? So anyone who looks at strategy is like, well, let's weaken our enemies first. Let's make them really, really weak, and then we can conquer them and so forth. So this is what we need to do. And so once we do this, it becomes weak, and then we can let the angelic side take control. Okay, and this must be done gradually. I'm making this point when I was typing this morning. It's not like you're going to fast 30 days, illa masha'Allah, and you're going to come out a finished product at the end, illa masha'Allah. Or you're going to fast for a few days and it's all going to work. We live in I call it a McDonald's society, where you drive around the corner and it's got to be ready for you. We want our Islam that way. Allah, I've been worshipping you for 2 days. I've been praying my salah. I've been giving my zakat. Allah help me. Allah help me. It doesn't work that way. You need to put effort in, right? And it's true before the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well. So this happens gradually, that over time, by performing salah, by waking up for Fajr regularly and getting to the musalla or getting to the masjid and staying up for Isha and making sure you pray Isha with Jama'ah, and not just ibadah but just general interaction with people. There are people who are going to wind you up, controlling yourself or not being wound up the wrong way, controlling the need to beat someone up, the jealousy and all of these sort of things because of social media, and we have these problems. But anyway, these things are very, very important, that we need to strive against these things. Once a person strives against this, he conquers them, he becomes a king. Like you want to become a king in the world, everybody likes to become powerful, right? The easiest way is to control your desires. Right? Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam in Surah Yusuf, we did tafsir of al-Ashiyah, he had control over his desires, he eventually became a king. Allah gave him hukumat. Right? So, and the woman that tried to seduce him, she succumbed to her desires and she was debased. Right? So that's what happened. And we see this with political leaders, right? They want power and they go for their desires and they do X, Y, and Z, and they become embarrassed and debased as well. So fasting is like so fasting is like an antidote, right? Like a cure to like this poison that we have, because we are following the desires, and fasting comes, Allah gives us fasting as an antidote. I'm not even talking about the research that scientists are talking about in terms of the benefit fasting has. That's all at its place. But we know already that it has many, many benefits. So anyway, moving on. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is the Dehli Divine talking about this. He says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if He chose, when He wanted us to fast, He could have chosen two methods. One of them was He could have said to us, just reduce your food and drink. Reduce what you eat, just reduce it. والثاني أن تكون مدة بين الأكلات زائدا على قدر المعتاد. He says that just reduce your food and drink. Or the second option Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had, this is what Shah Wali al-Dehlevi says, is that He lengthens the break between the times that we eat. So that's what we're doing right now, right? In Ramadan. We're lengthening the time between when we're eating, we just 18 hours or 14 hours or 16 hours. So this was the two options. So the second option was preferred. Allah could have said, you need to reduce your intake. There's a lot of reasons for that. And He says that one of the reasons that we choose the second method, which is the one that we follow as Muslims and the people before us, is that it lightens the body and weakens the nafs. When you're fasting for a long time, it makes you feel really light. You get headaches, right? Like it happened to me, we get headaches, but it weakens the nafs. You don't have strength to do anything. You're just too tired. You feel the pangs of hunger as well, and thirst. You feel weak. Because that's what we need to do. I'm so arrogant, I'm so petulant, I'm so boastful that I need to be reminded that actually Allah is in control of everything. Right? We drive our fancy cars and we have all of these wonderful things and we argue and fight with people. But in Ramadan we're reminded that you're nothing. So this is important. Also our animalistic side is strained, right? This behemoth that we have, this desires to do things, it's all brought under control. People control their gaze, mashallah, in the month of Ramadan. People don't smoke and all these things are reduced in the month of Ramadan, if not completely taken out of the system. People don't even watch TV, they put it on the TV, right? In our days, when I was younger, we had big TVs, right? Big heavy TVs, and they put a cloth over it. Now it's all flat screen, so I don't know what people do now. Maybe put it somewhere or something. But hey, so this is what people do. They even cover the TV because they want to control their gaze, right? So this is something that's important. You also feel sympathy for the poor, the less fortunate in society, right? And not just abroad, even in our own country now, with the growth of food banks, right? People who are less fortunate in society as well. And so this is one of the reasons that we have the second method, which is keeping longer time between eating. The first method, the one I talked about, which was reducing food, that's difficult because every individual is going to pick their own system, right? I'll just have less chicken today, I'll have less biryani this week. But to make it easier for everybody, Allah says, you know what, let's make it fair, let's make a level playing field and everybody can follow it. So Shah Waliullah Dehlevi says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose this method. And because the first method as well, the desired effects, he argues, it's not achieved. Because what will happen with human beings, right? So we tell this week I won't have biryani, but next week I'll have curry khichdi instead. And so we'll start playing with the system. So Allah says, you know what, I'm just going to keep it fair for everybody. Because we're human beings, right? We like to push the limits a little bit. We speed down Lammack Road. As soon as we see the speed camera, 30. Put the brakes on, 30. And then once the camera's gone, we all do it, right? So, to make it fair for everybody. Some of the virtues of fasting Ramadan, I'm going to go through a number of them, inshallah, from the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Again, I've taken this, and some of these things are very, very important. In one place you find Ghazali rahmatullahi alayhi mentions that as-sawmu nisfu sabr, that fasting is half of sabr. Listen to this, subhanallah. I'm going to prove to you mathematically that by fasting you are completing a quarter of your iman. By fasting you are completing a quarter of your iman, subhanallah, mathematically. Right? For those of us who love maths like me. As-sawmu nisfu sabr. He says that fasting is half of patience. Fasting is half of patience. And then he says as-sabru nisful iman, but patience is half of iman. So if you do the maths, by fasting you are completing a quarter of your iman. Subhanallah. That's the first fadail of the month of Ramadan, or fasting the month of Ramadan. So we should be ready for this. It's also a great opportunity. Number two, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has singled Ramadan or fasting out as a unique relationship with Him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has singled it out as a unique relationship with Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, or Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, Kullu ibn Adam yudha'ifu al-hasana bi-ashri amthaliha. Every amal that you do, Allah says, Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, that is multiplied by 10. Every good deed that you do is multiplied by 10. Ila sab'i di'fin, and up to 700 as well, or more. So depending on your depending on your sincerity, Allah can multiply it. Right? So if you come to Salah and you're really focused and you're really trying to connect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, your reward is greater. If you come to Salah because, you know, somebody is going to look at you and say, "Ah, bhai namaz not parad," or he doesn't come to the masjid, then it's less. Right? So it all comes down to your sincerity. Sab-i-mi'a, so to someone 700. Starts at the base 10 to 700 or even more. Just by doing one amal with your sincerity. قال الله تعالى إلا الصوم. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, except for fasting. Except for fasting. So you get 10 up to 700 or more for all other ibadah. إلا الصوم. Except for fasting, فإنه لي وأنا أجزي به. Because he is fasting for my sake, and Allah says, I will give him the reward. وأنا أجزي به يدع شهوة وطعامه من أجلي. That he has left his eating, he has left his desires for my sake. So this is also the benefit. Why is this? People might ask, why is that? Why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala singled out fasting as such a thing that is for my sake? Everything else is for Allah's sake. But why here Allah mentions that I give you more, and it's between me and my servant, subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah says a number of reasons for this, because fasting is one of those ibadat that only Allah knows. You know, you can't really tell if someone's fasting or not, unless he's one of those people who likes to make a scene about it, right? But otherwise you won't know, so it's hidden. So Salah is public, Zakat is generally public, Hajj is public, people know about it, but fasting people don't even know, right? It's a hidden thing. So something that's hidden has greater reward. So one of these reasons is only Allah knows about this, and it is between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Is also, number two, the second reason ulama mentioned, is also a means of defeating the enemy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the shaitan, who seeks to weaken us by our desires. So Allah loves it such that we are defeating shaitan, because we're doing that jihad against shaitan. Allah loves it such, He's going to give you more reward, because you're fighting against your nafs. And there's also deeper discussions in terms of why this is written in such a way, because the ulama say, especially Shah Walillah says, that when you do an amal, the malaika only record it, Allah knows what's the exact reward going to be as well. And there's a discussion amongst the ulama, that Allah leaves it in such a way that the malaika generally don't know what the reward is going to be. Their job is just to record it. They don't record that, so and so has done this amal, he's going to get this reward in the akhirah. They just record a transaction. Allah is the one who's going to say, well, he did this action, but because he had this quality, that quality, I'm going to give him this reward instead. So this is important to bear in mind. The malaika does record the actual sin or the obedience that you've done, but they don't record what you're going to get. Allah is the one who gives you the compensation for it. Subhanallah, on the day of Qiyamah. That's a very important thing to bear in mind. Number three, the benefit. Excellence and fragrance is known from the hadith as well. Fragrance from when you're fasting. You know, when you're fasting, people think it's bad breath, but the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says something else. La khulu fi fami as-sa'im atyabu 'inda Allah min rihi misk. Rasul says that the smell that leaves, the fragrance that leaves a person who's fasting their mouth is more beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than the smell of musk. Right? And I'm on about the real, genuine, authentic musk, not a cheap, one that you get from some corner shop, the real musk. And people who purchase real musk and who have a sort of taste for real musk will know what I'm talking about. But this is just an example, because to the Arabs at the time, this was like one of the best smells, right? But this is an example. So the ulama then say, the smell that comes out of an act is just as beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as the act itself. This is what we learn from the hadith. Do we understand this? The effect. What's the effect of fasting? The smell. Allah loves the effect of the act, the smell that comes from your mouth, just as much as you're fasting. Subhanallah. This is what we learn from the hadith. That Allah is showing us that your effect, I love that as well. So imagine how much Allah loves fasting. The effect of something is so beloved to Allah that He singled it out. Imagine how much the act itself is beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is important to bear in mind. It must be so beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This person is fasting for my sake. Number four, the ulama mentioned, Rasul says, لِلصَّائِمِينَ بَابٌ فِي الْجَنَّةِ. In Jannah, the people who are fasting, there's a door reserved for you. There are RSVP reserved for these people who are fasting in Jannah. يقال له الريان. What's the door called? الريان. Subhanallah, so many doors to Jannah. May Allah give us every single one. You'll be like picking on a day. Which door should I go through? You might want to go in through one door and come out again just to go through another door. May Allah give us all the doors of Jannah, inshallah. يقال له الريان لا يدخل فيه أحد غيرهم. No one has to be allowed to enter except the ones who are fasting for Allah's sake. فإذا دخل آخرهم أغلق من دخل فيه شرب ومن شرب لم يظمأ أبدا. And when you enter it, when the last one enters it, it will be shut. So the last person who has been bestowed with the ability and the bounty of being able to enter this door, through this door into Jannah, the door will be shut. Then you'll be given a water to drink or something to drink. وَمَنْ شَرِبَ لَمْ يَظْمَأ أَبَدًا. You'll never become thirsty ever again. This thing of becoming thirsty is you'll never ever experience the dunyawi thirst. You know, it's a negative thing, isn't it? Feeling thirst. In the Jannah, there's none of that. All these things are taken away. So you'll never feel thirsty ever again. Okay, so that's something to bear in mind. The fifth benefit, one of my favorite ones, is that لِلصَّائِمِ فَرْحَتَانِ. Rasulullah says that the person who fasts, there are two joyous occasions for him. There are two moments of happiness for him. Subhanallah. Two moments of happiness for him. فَرْحَةٌ عِنْدَ إِفْطَارِهِ. When you're breaking your fast in 2 weeks' time, you're so happy, right? You're so excited. Especially when it's the first few ones. Like, right? We all know, right? Because we've been doing the nafil ones, right? The sunnah ones, right? Especially during these days. And you're like, oh man, you know, where's the khajur? We've got fruits coming in Ramadan. We don't have a fry-up, so alhamdulillah, Lammack, a very healthy diet we try and give everyone here. We want to keep you alive as long as possible, inshallah. So, when you're really happy, right? Everybody's happy and you're getting the fruits and the bananas and everything else in, and you feel so happy because you feel so relieved. Rasulullah says that's one of your moments of happiness, and you should enjoy it because you've given yourself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then he says, وَفَرْحَةٌ عِنْدَ لِقَاءِ رَبِّي. He said the second moment of happiness is when you meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's nothing greater than meeting or being present with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay. Allahumma inna nas'aluka lazzat al-nazari ila wajhika al-kareem. Make this dua, Allah. We ask of the pleasure of seeking your countenance or being blessed with your countenance in the akhirah. You know, Allah knows best, but how we see, Allah knows best, but we ask Allah, and you have to control yourself, right, to be able to get that, to be able to gain that great bestowal. So the first joy is natural, right? The first one, when you've had, you know, someone who's been traveling and you've not been able to get, you know, if you're traveling, like I travel, alhamdulillah, quite a lot, and sometimes when I don't eat my mom's food or my wife's food, I feel a little bit sick. And when I come home and I might manage to get, I always go to my mom's house straight there. As soon as I get into Blackburn, I have to drive through Little Howard and see my mom first, right? And she knows I'm missing her food, and I feel so happy because I haven't had mom's food or my wife's food for a long time. So it's a natural thing because we're so used to it. So iftar is a natural thing, and there's nothing wrong with that. So this is a means of pleasure. So, but the second one is a divine pleasure. Right? Imagine how great that feels, right? When you, especially these summer months, because mashallah we have to work really hard for it, right? But the second one is a divine pleasure, and so by doing this fast, which we're getting a divine pleasure in the akhirah, we are preparing. This is why I want to make the point here, as kind of a subtle point. We are preparing our souls for a greater pleasure in the akhirah by fasting these long fasts. What do I mean by that? Let me try to explain another way. These fasts are really long, aren't they? And sometimes they can be hard. In most cases, they can be hard. Life's long, life's hard, life's difficult. You know, people put you down, people make you feel like you're nothing, and all of these things happen. But at the end, you get out of this world and you go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Similar with fasting. Fasting is tough, it's challenging, people are going to tempt you, people are going to try and wind you up. You're going to smell around Asr time when you come into the musalla, the cooking and the baking and everything else. You know, and all the rest of it. It's a mujahid, it's a strive. Life's tough. But you get iftari at the end of it. Here, at the end of life, you get to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So whenever you feel like, and this is just digressing slightly, very important, whenever you feel like life's giving you a tough time, there's always going to be sunny days. There's always going to be good moments. Just ride the tough moments. You know, every one of us, we experience difficulties in different ways, and we also react to difficulties in different ways. Some people are better than others. Some people are just used to it. They have a positive mindset. Whenever things are tough, they feel sick, they feel ill, financial difficulties, whatever else it is, they have that resilience just to carry on. And Allah give us that, inshallah. Right? But you have sunny days. No one lives, you know, rainy days forever. Okay? You get sunny days, whether it's business, whether it's family, wife, relationships, all of these things. But always remember that there'll be good opportunities at the end. And while you're in those difficulties, you're being tested. That's when you're really being tested by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What are you really like? When things are going really well, we can all be polite to one another, right? When things are tough and you come to the musalla, You don't want to give salam to anybody. You don't want to smile. You don't want to talk to anybody. No, you have to change that demeanor. Become positive. And say to Allah, Allah, throw it at me. Allah, raise my ranks through this. The Prophet ﷺ, Ibn Kathir mentions this in his tafsir, that the people who are tested the most by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala were the Anbiya alayhi wa salatu wassalam. Yet they remained resilient. They carried on. Some were killed, some were kicked out from their homes, some had to make hijrah, and all sorts of things had to happen, but they remained resilient. Right? So this is something that we need to bear in mind. But Allah elevates our status. Then people after. So when you're being tested, it's a sign from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He loves you. Right? When things are too easy, we become negligent. Because in the West, in Britain, we live in a bubble. We literally live in a bubble. If I just come back from Jordan and Palestine, these sort of places, and you see the difficulties that they go through, then you realize that we really live in a bubble. We've got such easy life. We don't realize. We might think, oh, what are you talking about? Things tough. But it's not tough for us. You don't have to go through checkpoints. You don't have to walk around with your passport. You don't have to be harassed. You don't have to be held at borders. Imagine if I wanted to go to Little Harwood just to see my mum, and it could take me 2 hours or 3 hours or 4 hours. Oh, I might never even get to see her that day. Right? And these sort of things. Right? But Allah's given us such ni'mah that we don't have to worry about these things. Or when I met one of my friends who was studying in Sham, and he was saying that when I was studying, he had to leave, but when he was studying there for 10 years, he said towards the end when the war broke out, I was studying with my sheikh, and I could hear guns, being shot in the background and bombs going off in the background, because we had to leave eventually, reluctantly. He said, this is how we learnt knowledge. Qurbani that we had to make. And we have it easy, right? You just sit here and you listen, and you don't have to travel out and all the rest of it. So we really live in a world. We should thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well. So think about that day when you meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the akhirah. And like after all this hard work in Lammack and Blackburn and all these things that you did, inshallah, for the community, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's worthwhile. I always say to people, it's worthwhile going to bed having a hard day's graft. I don't know about anybody else, but there's nothing that beats going to sleep at night after a hard day's graft. People might think you must be crazy, but I think that when you go to sleep at night and you've had a hard day's graft, whatever else you're doing, and the sleep that Allah gives you, inshallah, is blessed, right? Rather than having a lazy day and not doing much, right? So becoming productive Muslims. But imagine when you meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the akhirah, in such a way that you've made the effort, you've made the mujahadah. And we see in our own communities, our awliya, our ulama, our pious people who've given their lives for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No such thing as retirement, right? This retirement thing that we have, they kept on going until they breathed their last, right? And this is how we should be. Retirement is just a number, but for us we keep going to serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Benefit number 6, fasting is also the door to worship. لِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ بَابٌ وَبَابُ الْعِبَادَةِ صَوْمٌ. So every ibadah has a door to let you in. Fasting is a door that lets you into Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, come close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let me tell you something very, very wonderful as well. Benefit number 7, I read this in Ihya Ulumuddin. It says, نَوْمُ الصَّائِمِ عِبَادَةٌ. When you go to sleep at night, or you're sleeping after work, I recommend to people who are working, by the way, if you come back from work at 5 o'clock, don't try and be a hero, have some rest. What does he say? نَوْمُ الصَّائِمِ عِبَادَةٌ. Just the fasting person who's sleeping, he's doing ibadah. You're sleeping at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, right? That's ibadah for you. And not just for fasting, anything. If you go to the gym with the intention of as an ibadah because you want to become stronger and you want to look after yourself, that's an ibadah. If you go to sleep at night and you go with the intention, I'm sleeping because I'm tired, and when I wake up I'll be fresh and I'll be able to pray my tahajjud, my fajr, or I'll be able to earn halal rizq, your sleeping is ibadah for you, because it all comes down to intention, right? This is all comes down to intention. Islam is a beautiful religion. How many hours does a person sleep on average? 8? That's 1/3 of your day, right? 8, 16, 24. Do the math. So if a person sleeps on average 8 hours a day, so let me show you some maths again. If a person sleeps 8 hours on average per day, I never recommend people spend more than 8 hours in bed. You should sleep less than that. But 8 hours, okay, 8 hours per person sleeps. That's 1/3 of your day in ibadah. If you juxtapose that, if you take that towards your entire life, you spent your entire life 1/3 of it in sleeping. If you go to sleep with the right intention, you spend 1/3 of your life rather not sleeping but in ibadah. 1/3 of your life you've kept your ibadah. Another way, let me give you one hadith as well. Rasulullah says to meaning that a person who prays Salat al-Isha Salatul Fajr with Jama'ah, he gets the reward of the entire night in ibadah. You've been sleeping the entire night, but you got up, you stayed awake for Isha, 10 o'clock, 10 past 10, quarter past 10, or 11 o'clock, whatever it is, and you got up for Fajr, you get the entire night's reward. And in winter it's wonderful, because Isha is really, really late, and Fajr is late as well. Isha is early, and Isha is late. Those entire nights you're getting your reward for it, easy rewards. So always make an effort to pray Salah with Jama'ah. Isha time, I know people are tired, it's been a long day, it's been warm. You must pray your Farz, go home and pray Sunnah if you have to. Go home and pray Nawafil. That's also part of the Sunnah as well, to pray at home as well. Don't make your home like a Qabristan. Pray Salah at home as well. Not the Farz, I mean the Sunnah Nawafil. Okay, also a very famous hadith that we come across. Rasul says, إذا كان أول ليلة من شهر رمضان, when the first night of the month of Ramadan come, صفدت الشيطان, shayateen, the devils are chained, ومرض الجن وغلقت أبواب النار, and the doors of Jahannam are shut. The angels are locked up, the doors of Jahannam are shut. And then he says the doors of Jannah are open, and it will be called on that night, ينادي منادي يا باغي الخير اقبل ويا باغي الشر اقصر. It says, O seeker of good, come near, O seeker of evil, stop. So we know from the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that the doors of Jannah are open. What does that mean? The doors of Jannah are open. And what does it mean that shaitan is locked up? And what does it mean that the doors of Jahannam are closed? So the ulama say that when it comes to Jannah being open, this only relates to the believers. This relates only to the believers, because someone could ask the question, what about if a non-Muslim dies in this month? So the ulama say no, this only relates to the believers. In fact, the ulama say it's much worse for the unbelievers in the month of Ramadan, because the 12 months of, listen to this is wonderful. Shah Waliyullah Dehlavi can only say this, rahmatullah. This is not my words. He says that, look, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us His mercy, His rahmah all the time, 24/7. But in the month of Ramadan, He gives you special mercy. He gives you special mercy in the month of Ramadan. So think about it. When Allah is giving you mercy all the time and you're still disobeying Him, and then His special mercy comes and then you disobey Him, isn't that much worse? Isn't that much worse? Like for example, to disobey Allah is bad. But to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this place, in the masjid, is much worse, isn't it? So Shah Waliyullah Dehlavi says it's much worse for the disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to take place in the month of Ramadan. That only also applies to us. So that's why they say only for the believers Jannah, the doors of Jannah are open. Ulama then also say when it means the doors of Jannah open, it means the doors of Rahmah open. Allah's mercy is called giving. Allah is giving His mercy. The malaika are out and about. His mercy is everywhere. And the angels, because the doors of Jahannam are closed, that means that the devils are restrained. The shayateen are restrained. Now people might say, myself, I still feel like I still get the devilish impulses. That's a good barometer for you to check that